Tensions high in Ferguson, Missouri, the city awaiting a grand jury decision 2 months after 18-year-old Michael Brown, a black unarmed teenager, was shot and killed by a white police officer. I'm Michelle Franzen in New York. Right now, I want to bring in ABC's Steve Osinsami from Ferguson about the latest developments. Steve, the grand jury meeting every Wednesday, and today no different. Any word yet on how this decision and when will be announced?
No, we have no word. The grand jury meetings are secret. The only reason why we even have any idea about how proceedings have been going is because last week they actually called a witness that was hired by the Brown family. And so because of that coroner's testimony, we were able to get a sense of their timeline. Most people watching this believe that he was going to be one of the last witnesses. And then, of course, the grand jury would start deliberating and then render a decision to the prosecutor. The prosecutor has told police authorities here that he's going to try to give authorities here at least 24 to 48 hours notice. He's also told the family of Michael Brown that he would give them notice as well. But so far, we don't have any idea when this is going to happen, but all of our indications are that it could be within the next few days.
And Steve, you've been speaking to the attorney for Michael Brown's family, Benjamin Crump. What kind of decision are they saying that they are expecting?
You know, we talked to him and he had very strong opinions about this. He is entirely frustrated with this process, saying that in other crimes there's more probable cause to lead to an arrest. There's enough of that probable cause in this instance that hasn't been used by the prosecutor to make an arrest, he says. You know, they're really hoping for some sort of indictment here. But listen to what he told us last night when I asked him exactly what he was expecting the result would be.
Are you expecting an indictment?
Well, historically, based on what you see, when you got the local prosecutor sitting in judgment of the local police, they normally don't indict. It's an inherent conflict of interest, and it's a system that gives all the favor to the police officers and does nothing for the citizens.
That conflict of interest he's talking about is because the prosecutor in this case is administering the proceedings. He complains that if this were in open court, if this were a trial, if he were charged, that the evidence would able to be presented by Crump or some other attorney in the light that he thinks it deserves. So there's a lot of skepticism on the part of Crump and Michael Brown supporters about this decision. I can tell you that no matter what is decided here, and even though the prosecutor has agreed to open up this evidence once the grand jury proceedings are done, there are many people here who will never feel justice has been served.
And Steve, frustration on many sides of this. We've seen some powerful images coming out of Ferguson, the memorial in the middle of the street for Michael Brown at the same place he was shot and killed. Describe that memorial.
I can tell you the memorial has teddy bears and signs saying, "Rest in peace, Michael Brown, you will not be forgotten." There are actually two pieces of memorial at that site in the Canfield district where he was killed. There's one on a post that's sitting on the side of the road, and then there's another makeshift memorial actually in the middle of the street where he died, with candles that are often lit when you walk by them. And residents who live in that area are very sensitive to people placing things on that memorial. So yes, there is something that one of his cousins said at his funeral when Michael Brown was buried. He said that the whole world had no idea that they would know this young man's name, and that is exactly what has happened here, no matter how you feel about this incident and the issues behind it.
Steve, we've also seen some demonstrators practicing a new form of protest, very different types of protests, one they called a die-in. What point are they trying to make in this protest and others?
Well, I think in that particular protest, it was actually a very quick one because it was so freezing cold that day. The demonstrators came out and laid on the ground and blocked traffic and then disappeared. But what's really been happening are these pop-up protests that have been designed to stop traffic and to shut down commerce in front of businesses. There was one that took place last week right outside the grand jury proceedings, outside the courthouse. People who were trying to get past on the streets couldn't go. There were protesters surrounding cars. It was all peaceful, but it was also very disruptive. And their point is that if there's no justice, there'll be no peace. And as they like to say, let's shut it down.
Governor Jay Nixon declared a state of emergency 2 days ago and is making preparations. How is the community sort of preparing for this moment? What have you seen there with the heavy police presence?
I'll tell you that Governor Nixon held a news conference yesterday where he talked about some of these things and also appointed this blue ribbon commission to look into the issues that are systemic behind the unrest here. And he was confronted at that news conference by a number of residents who were quite upset about the buildup. There was one man who said, you know, if you want a war, if you're preparing for war, you're going to get one. There are a lot of people who feel that the buildup is adding to the tensions here, and that is somewhat unnecessary before this decision even comes down. We're seeing, of course, up to 1,000 police officers who've been put on the ready. The National Guard is set to help police keep the peace here. Just this morning, we learned that the mayor of St. Louis has called for 400 National Guard troops to patrol that city because they're concerned about potential unrest. So the residents, by and large, many are upset. There are obviously some who are somewhat comforted by this because everyone remembers those pictures from August of not only the protest fights with police in the streets, but also what happened afterwards, which was the lawlessness, the thieves who were using the protest as an excuse to rob and loot.